Hey, what's going on YouTube? EasyTech231 here with my full review of the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. Alright, so let's cut to the chase. Every time we talk about the Galaxy Note 5, we seem to pay most attention to what the Note 5 is missing. Missing things like the removable battery, micro SD card slot, IR blaster, and on top of all that, this thing has a smaller 3000 mAh battery, man. So people like to bash on the Note 5 and say that it is a downgrade from last year's Note 4. But in this review, I really want to pay attention to what we're given with the Note 4. Forget all the things that it doesn't have and pay attention to what it does have. We gotta give Samsung a chance here, guys. You with me? Alright, let's go. So what do we get with this year's Galaxy Note? Well, we'd get pretty much what you would expect. A faster processor, better cameras, a slightly better S Pen, a much improved fingerprint reader, and of course, better hardware. And speaking of the hardware, we're looking at pretty much the same setup that we get on the Galaxy S6. We've got the same button and port layout, a full metal band around the phone, and glass on the back, with no plastic to be found. Now, while I do welcome the change that Samsung has made to their phones in terms of hardware, I don't really feel that putting glass on the back was the best choice. I kind of feel like they should have put something like real leather or aluminum. Having all glass on the back does mean that it will be a little bit more fragile, a little more easy to shatter, and not to mention it's more prone to getting smudges and fingerprints. Now, of course, you could go the route that I did to be rid of this problem and stick a skin on it. It's got a pretty sweet SlickWraps skin on it, and I'll put a link in the description where you can get one, but if you don't like skins or if you don't like cases, you may want to carry a microfiber cleaning cloth around with you to keep the back of the phone looking nice and shiny. So there are some downsides in having an all-glass back, but it's alright. Samsung's moving in the right direction. At least it's not plastic. So overall, the build quality and the feel in the hand is great. The phone is very sleek, the back has these really nice curved edges and smaller bezels around the screen which make the phone a little skinnier. Now, the Galaxy Note 5 is being powered by the Exynos 7420 quad-core chipset, so bye-bye Snapdragon. It also comes equipped with the Mali T760 GPU and 4GB of RAM. Now, if you don't know what all of that means, it basically means that this phone is very fast and pretty darn powerful. Now, in previous Note phones and pretty much all previous Galaxy phones for that matter, they've all had the latest specs. They've had surprisingly good benchmarks, but a lot of the phones have suffered from one thing, and that's lag. In real-world usage, the phones would stutter and lag almost beyond use, and that's because of Samsung's heavy TouchWiz skin plastered on top of Android. While Samsung has gotten better with TouchWiz over the years, it's still a turnoff for most users out there. However, this year we're looking at the lightest version of TouchWiz yet, and because it's so light, it really makes the user experience much more enjoyable. There isn't nearly as much Samsung bloatware this time, and I love it. Now, of course, you will find your carrier's bloatware, but Samsung was nice enough to tuck that away in a folder for you. So while TouchWiz still looks a little childish, it's miles better than what it used to be. Now, because the software is lighter, the phone is less vulnerable to lag. In fact, there's little to no lag at all. Yeah, the phone isn't completely lag-free, and I've heard some people say that there isn't any lag, and I'd be lying to you if I said that the phone was 100% lag-free. It's just not. However, the only lag I did experience was when I was installing or updating a whole bunch of apps at the same time. But the lag wasn't bad, it was just a couple of hiccups. Other than that, this phone flies, and it's buttery smooth, which feels kind of weird when talking about a Samsung device, but it's true. So let's go ahead and talk about this improved S Pen. So instead of just pulling the S Pen out like you did before, you now have to push the pen in, it pops out, and then you pull the pen out. So now it's a two-step process, but it does allow the pen to be pretty much flush with the bottom of the phone, which makes the phone feel even more solid. So taking a closer look at the S Pen, you can definitely tell that it looks a lot more premium than previous S Pens. It's still plastic, but it definitely feels nicer in the hand, and also that clicking mechanism that you use to get the pen out of the phone is still here. It's kind of like an actual pen, and this I'm not gonna lie, it's very addicting. It gets very addicting. I could do this all day. If Samsung decides to keep this clicky thing in future S Pens, I would kind of like to see it take over for the other button on the front of the S Pen that activates Air Command. And speaking of Air Command, we now have a revamped menu system. You can now add up to 3 of your favorite apps to be available whenever you pull the S Pen out, which is nice. We still have the same action memo, smart select, and screen write, but now with the Note 5 we can take extra long screenshots with what they call scroll capture. I actually found this to be very useful when I wanted to capture a whole web page. It basically keeps scrolling and allows you to take screenshots, and when you're done, it stitches them all together for one long screenshot. You can also take the S Pen out, write a little note, and stick the S Pen back in, and it'll save whatever you wrote, all while the phone is locked and the screen is off. That's actually a really great feature right there. So the whole S Pen experience just feels more solid this year, and I actually found myself using the S Pen. We also have the multi-window feature, which works better than ever. It's a lot more responsive and it's easier to use as well. You still can't use it with every single app that you have, but it still works. And those 4 GB of RAM really keep things running quickly and smoothly with a ton of apps open at the same time. So overall, using the Note 5 is really enjoyable. It's fast, it's responsive, apps run smoothly, and games play great, and I'm really impressed with the performance that this phone has to offer. Now on the back of the phone, you'll find the camera, the LED flash, and the heart rate monitor, which is a little more useful this year as well thanks to the S Health app not being so useless. Along with that heart rate monitor, we have the return of the fingerprint reader, and a much improved reader at that. You no longer have to swipe down in order to unlock the phone. It works just like a fingerprint reader should. You just rest your finger on it. In terms of accuracy, it's dead on nearly every time, well, at least for me anyway. It's also really fast. I never really used the fingerprint scanner on the Note 4 because it was just too much of a hassle and it wasn't very accurate. However, it's the complete opposite here, so there's really nothing to worry about with this new reader. Another thing I wanted to touch on is battery life. I can tell you right now that I'm getting better battery life on the Note 5 than I ever did on the Galaxy Note 4. So just because it has a smaller battery doesn't automatically mean you're going to get less battery life. In terms of screen on time that I get on the Note 5, I average about 4 hours and some change, and sometimes I'll even get up to 5 hours, and this is with the brightness turned up to about 75% and with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on, so it's safe to say that the battery life is good. Just be careful. I mean, if you have the brightness maxed out, you have LTE on, NFC on, Bluetooth on, all this stuff on, it'll drain your battery pretty quickly. But with my use, I can get through a full day not having to worry about charging the phone. And we do have quick charging on the Galaxy Note 5, and we also have quick wireless charging as well. So not only do we have wireless charging built in, we can also use quick wireless charging to charge our phones from 0 to 100% in about an hour and 45 minutes. It's really incredible how quickly you can go from 0 to 100. Alright, so taking a look at what really keeps me in the Note family besides the screen size, we're looking at the camera. The front-facing camera, or selfie camera I guess we're calling it now, is pretty decent. It's not amazing, it's decent. It got bumped up from 3.7 megapixels to a full 5 megapixels. I actually don't take selfies, but it is safe to say that it'll get the job done for you passionate selfie takers out there. Now moving on to the main rear-facing 16 megapixel camera with OIS, this thing is a beast. Just recently I went to an air show and decided to leave the DSLR at home and test out the Note 5's camera. It did not disappoint. These planes were pretty far away and I was able to snap these shots with ease. In fact, these shots were taken while I was shooting video. But of course, most people aren't going to be taking pictures of planes flying up in the sky every day, so I did take some normal pictures, and still, the Note 5 produced incredible results outdoors and decent results in low light. As expected, the Galaxy Note 5 also shoots incredible video. It shoots in regular FHD, FHD at buttery smooth 60 frames per second, Quad HD, and UHD, also known as 4K. To test out the 4K recording capabilities, I'll probably shoot some future YouTube videos with the Note 5 in 4K, so stay tuned for that. You've also got these included shooting modes such as panorama, slow motion, fast motion, virtual shot, and selective focus. Samsung also included live broadcasting straight to YouTube, which is pretty interesting, a video collage mode, which I think is pretty sweet, and a pro mode, which will allow you to manually change things like aperture, white balance, ISO, and more. Also, the thing I really like about this camera is how fast it is and how quickly you can activate it. You can activate it simply by pressing the home button twice. Boom, it's always ready to go. So the camera on the Galaxy Note 5 is fantastic. It's pretty much the same camera that you find on the Galaxy S6, and pretty much the whole phone is a supersized Galaxy S6. So, the Galaxy Note 5. It's got great, solid build quality, a very refreshing user experience, good battery life, great cameras, you've got the S Pen and a great fingerprint reader, and a huge, beautiful 5.7-inch Quad HD display, which is pretty much the best display on a smartphone right now, all within this very sleek and thin package. And these are all great things, and I really like it, but what about the things that I don't like about the Galaxy Note 5? Well, other than the fact that this thing is a certified fingerprint magnet, there's really not much else that I dislike about the phone. Now, of course, I do wish that they made the phone a little thicker and stuffed a beefier battery, maybe a 4,000 mAh battery inside. I also wish that the phone had front-facing speakers instead of having them on the bottom, or having it on the bottom, because it is a single speaker, which by the way is a welcome change, but it's not right. And it also doesn't sound that great. It is a lot better than the Note 4 speaker though. I mean, all I'm saying is that speakers need to be front-facing, where your face is. It's also where your ears are facing. My ears ain't down here, Sammy. There's also that problem with the S Pen where if you stick it in backwards, it'll get stuck and it pretty much breaks, so don't put it in backwards. Honestly, it's like pouring water into a glass that's sitting upside down. I also wish they put that little thing called an SD card slot next to the SIM card in the SIM tray like some other phones out there, Moto X. But of course, this is merely nitpicking. Not everybody needs expandable storage. Not everybody needs an IR blaster. Not everybody needs a removable battery. It's honestly just personal preference. But overall, there's more good than bad with the Note 5. It's more of an acquired taste, if you will. So while I do miss what the Note 4 had to offer, I'm very content with what the Note 5 has to offer. So closing with a couple of questions answered. Is the Note 5 a worthy upgrade from the Note 4? Yes. Does it make the Note 4 completely obsolete? Not at all. The Note 5 checks nearly every box on the list, and it's one of the only phones that I believe could suit just about anybody. The Galaxy Note 5 is arguably the best phone out on the market right now. So that about wraps it up for my Galaxy Note 5 review. If you did enjoy the review, feel free to smash that like button. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at EasyTech231, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Later.